What's going on, guys? This is Mr. Teej, 66's Movie Reviews. I am Mr. Teej, 66. Today's movie review is an oldie, 1971's Duel. Now, this is the feature film debut of well, not feature film, this is actually a TV movie, but it's the first film directed by a young filmmaker named Steven Spielberg. You might have heard of him. He's made a couple films. But this is where he got his first start. This was a TV movie broadcast in 1971. He'd been doing some TV episodes prior to this, like Columbo, Night Gallery, a couple other series I've never really heard of. I don't know if they're really that well remembered, but and this movie is a thriller straight through. It's about a man driving down the desert highway, and I believe it takes place in California. Drives down the desert highway. All of a sudden, in the middle of nowhere, encounters an 18-wheeler truck, and for some reason the truck driver starts coming after him and trying to kill him and run him off the road. There's never any explanation for who this guy is, why he's doing this. As Spielberg says in some of the interviews, it's an exercise in pure suspense, and he has to get away from this guy for the rest of the time. And this movie is simple, but it is brilliant. I mean, you can really tell Steven Spielberg's mastery of film, because this is, his first film of any kind. I mean, aside from, I'm sure, student films he made, and it is done, and he was only about 23 when he did this movie, and to this day, that blows my mind, because this movie is shot just with the confidence of a guy twice his age, and so many quirky camera angles, cameras bolted to the car, sort of tilted Dutch angles. The editing is absolutely fantastic as this guy starts, as the truck just starts coming up closer behind the guy. You get shots of the rearview mirror, outside the truck, down low on the ground, looking up at the truck. Just, wow. I can't believe this movie was made by a 23-year-old guy. And it was also only shot in 13 days, which blows my freaking mind, because it's all filmed on location with real cars, real stunts, no, old-fashioned, because originally they wanted to have him do it, the old-fashioned way, with just process out the back, and he's like, it's gonna look fake, it's not gonna be realistic, and he had to fight the network for it, but I'm glad he did, because it just gives it a verisimilitude that, the process stuff really wouldn't do. And I mean, this movie feels like a theatrical film. Like, it really does. I can't believe this is a TV movie. This is like maybe the single best TV movie I've ever seen in terms of production, production. Just fantastic stuff. Dennis Weaver plays the main character, and really the only character in the movie, aside from a few pit stops he makes. His name is David Mann. Ha ha ha. A very generic name, and he does a great job in the film of just conveying, terror and confusion and everything. He just feels like just a normal guy who's just thrust into this incredible situation. The truck should also be commented on. It is one of the most fearsome-looking trucks I've ever seen. It has a face. Like, again, in the interview feature, Spielberg goes over the fact that, he wanted a truck with a face, because we never see the driver in this film. We never see his face. We never know who this guy is or why he's doing this, which it just is great. It makes it so much more frightening. Nowadays, they would be like, oh, well, he had a troubled, childhood, or he was deformed, blah, 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 and it just would have made him less scary, Less is more. That's why I like these films from the 70s, they really, they really make you think, and they really just leave so much up to your imagination, and everything has to be explained nowadays, and it gets really boring after a while. In the time that this movie takes place, he wouldn't learn who this guy is or why he's doing this, so why bother? There's a fantastic sequence where he stops at a diner, and he realizes the truck driver's in there, or he thinks he's in there, and, there's a bunch of people in the cafe, and he's got to try and figure out who it is, and he starts having these inner monologues where his confusion and his just madness just really is just very, intense and well directed. I gotta go back to Spielberg, because he took a lot of the same ideas from this movie and when he did Jaws, the unstoppable, monster that just is coming after you and cannot be stopped, can't be reasoned with. And, he even said when he read the script for Jaws, he was like, this is Duel on the ocean. This is the same basic concept, and I can see it. I guess I might have to spoil a little bit, but there's a spectacular crash scene at the end where, spoiler warning, the truck, he crashes the truck over a cliff, and it's one of the best crashes I've ever seen because it's all done in one take because they only had one truck, so they only could do it once, but it's all done in one shot. As it just goes down the mountain, this creepy score. I forget the name of the guy who did the score because it's actually not John Williams. This is one of only, I believe, 3 films Spielberg has made that John Williams has not done the music, but I think he hadn't met Williams by this point, but absolutely fantastic. Just kind of an avant-garde kind of score to it. Just weird noises. It just really, it really adds to the mood of the film. As for negatives, only a couple. There's some suspension of disbelief you have to make, because this character is supposed to be going to some meeting with some client or something because he works in an office. He's got to get to this meeting on time. But you'd think after all this crap is going on with this truck driver fucking with him, he would turn around and go home. But no, he keeps on going. Although that could be a comment on, I don't know, stupid white male, denial. I don't know. No, nothing's wrong. I have to do this. Just, dude, it's not worth your life, but apparently it is. There's also a few sequences which were actually added in because this movie was actually released theatrically in Europe, but the original runtime was only 75 minutes, and I guess the film had to be at least 90 to get a theatrical release in Europe, so he had to go back in and shoot a few extra scenes. There's a scene with a bus full of kids. There's also a scene where the truck tries to, push him onto a railroad tracks. They feel a little added in there, and I don't know if they don't really contribute that much. But overall, it's a very small complaint. This movie gets a 9.5. If you're an old-fashioned fan of old-fashioned suspense thrillers, I cannot recommend this movie enough. Suspension of disbelief is required, of course, in all these films. I really would recommend this film. Anyway, that's my review this week. This is Mr. TH66, and I will see you next time.